the shadow that was born first. Before Vincent came into the world, his name already belonged to another. His older brother, also named Vincent, was born exactly 1 year before him on March 30th and died that very day. A silent infant, without a voice, without a story, without a chance. But in the cemetery of the village of Zundert stood a stone with that name. And when the newborn Vincent opened his eyes, he was already a replacement. A ghost for his mother. An extension for his father. A copy not yet loved. As he grew up, they showed him the grave. Here lies your brother Vincent. He stood before his own name, carved in stone, before he had even learned the alphabet. From the very beginning, his life was an attempt to prove that he was not dead. Not a shadow. Not a mistake. Coldness in the house. His father, Theodorus, a strict Protestant pastor, believed in order and humility. He saw art as a pointless pastime and emotions as sin. His mother, Anna Cornelia, was stern, silent, hidden behind stitches and prayers. She did not hug. She did not sing lullabies. Her love was like the winter sun, distant and restrained. The house was quiet, neat, somber. Everything within it was silent. Even the walls. Even the eyes. And only one voice called Vincent, not human, not divine, but light. Light and dirt. At 4 years old, he began to draw with a charcoal piece on the fireplace. At 5, he painted leaves with his fingers on paper that his mother placed under apples. His hands were stained with ink. His clothes with paint. His eyes fixed on the sky. He did not obey orders. He drew when he was supposed to pray. He drew when everyone else was asleep. At 6, he was whipped for the first time for blasphemy, for a drawing where the angel had black wings and Jesus had empty eyes. But he did not stop, because he saw the world differently. Not as it was in sermons. Not as it was in books. He saw the world as painful and beautiful. And he did not know where to put this. Loneliness. At school they considered him odd. He sat in a corner, did not play with others, did not laugh. He studied faces, how shadows lay on cheeks, how veins showed on hands. His gaze frightened. Teachers said, he is smart but wild. Classmates, he will either become a genius or go mad. Vincent said nothing. He only wrote. The first letters. At 10 he wrote his first letter to his brother Theo, who was still very young. There was nothing about games or family. Only these lines. Why do people pray in church if God is in the wheat field? Why do I see crows in the sky when others see clouds? Theo kept this letter his whole life. Vincent wrote often. In his letters he was free. There he could scream, cry, laugh. There he was not a shadow, no one's reflection, no one's fear. Rebellion. At 16 he ran away from home. He had read in the Bible that Christ walked among the poor, and decided to do the same. Without money, without a plan, with the Bible in one hand and a notebook in the other. They found him a week later in a field trying to paint God, using dirt and grass. They brought him home. His father prayed for exorcism. Vincent was silent. But something inside him cracked. First loss. At 17 he fell in love for the first time, with Ursula, the neighbor's daughter. She laughed when she read his letters. She looked into his eyes when he spoke, and he thought the world finally returned love to him. But she rejected him. She said she was already engaged. Vincent stood under her window in the rain all night. Then he went to the forest. He stayed there for 3 days. They found him cold, silent, with eyes that did not blink. After that, his gaze was never the same. Cold Christ. At 25 he decided to become a missionary. Not because he believed in God more than others, but because he wanted to be among the pain. Among those no one listened to. He was sent to Borinage, a mining region in Belgium. The earth there was black. The people bent. The air heavy like sin. Villagers worked 12 hours underground. They died young. Went blind. Coughed blood. Vincent settled in a hut made of wood and mud. Slept on straw. Ate potatoes with ash. Wore rags like locals. He was unpaid. He did not preach. He just stayed nearby. Sat with widows. Carried water to the old. Buried dead children. And painted, their hands, faces, lanterns they held going underground. I did not see God in the church, he wrote Theo. I saw him in the eyes of the coal miner who shared his bread with me. First figures from darkness. He took coal from the ground, not as fuel but as paint. Painted directly on wooden walls. Then on scraps of paper, on torn canvas pieces given by children. His figures were rough, heavy, almost frightening. But real. An old man with empty eyes. A mother holding a dead infant. Hands trembling like roots of trees. All black, dark gray without a single light. But light was born in the shadow. He painted obsessively. Not for galleries. Not for fame. Because he could not paint. Expulsion from paradise. Church authorities came from Antwerp to see how the missionary lived. They saw a dirty hut, a hungry man barefoot with eyes shining with fever. And said, "This is disgrace." "A priest should inspire, not humiliate himself," said the senior canon. "Your presence devalues faith." They expelled him. And something inside him cracked, not from pain but from clarity. The spark. Vincent left Borinage with nothing but a notebook and a small scroll of paper. It contained sketches, an old miner on his knees, a furnace, a face in darkness, fingers breaking bread. He walked through villages, slept in barns, stopped by fields. One evening he lit a fire by the road, and in the dim light saw smoke spreading over the grass, like a brushstroke, like a dream. And then he said to himself, "If I cannot be a preacher, I will be a painter. But not one who shows beauty. One who tells the truth." Rebirth. Returning to Holland, Vincent began to teach himself, from books, copying engravings. His room in Rotterdam was cold, cramped, dark. But on the walls, sketches. On the floor, paint. He painted peasants, not idealized but real. With deep wrinkles, bent shoulders, big boots. This was not art. This was a witness. "I want my paintings to smell like earth," he wrote Theo. So the hands on the canvas look like they just dug potatoes. These words became a prophecy. Father's anger. His father was stunned. "This is filth," he said, seeing his son's paintings. "This is not art. This is madness." Vincent shouted back. "This is the world. These are the people you do not see in your sermons. This is Jesus not on an icon but in the mine, dirty and broken." The fight was the last. His father ordered him to leave home. And Van Gogh left, forever. The sun that whispers. In February 1888, Vincent left the grey north and traveled south to Arles, France. There he searched for light. Not divine, not aesthetic, but light that hurts. He was 35. Money from Theo in his pocket. Loneliness and fever in his heart. Arles greeted him like a sun fever. Fields of mustard, sky the color of burnt turquoise, walls ochre, sun like knives. Everything breathed color. Everything was too alive, as if before sleep. He settled in the yellow house, a 2-story building overlooking Lamartine Square. He painted the walls yellow and blue. Covered the floor with his canvases. Left windows open to hear the noise of trees even at night. He wrote to Theo. "Here I can create a light no one has ever seen. If I don't burn from it first." Painter's obsession. Then began the most productive period of his life. He painted 3 canvases a day. Furious brushstrokes. Directly from life. Without sketches. Almond blossom, the bedroom, the yellow house, the night cafe, sunflowers. He applied paint with his fingers, mixing it on the canvas. As much paint was on the walls, floor, his face as on the paintings. He drank coffee mixed with absinthe, smoked endlessly, barely slept. He told local children the light whispers to him in colors. Once he said, "I think the stars scream at night." People began to fear him. Children threw stones. They called him the Mad Dutchman. But he didn't notice. Because the light hadn't killed him yet. The coming guest. Vincent dreamed of an artist's commune. Where creators would work together without envy, critics, or galleries. He wrote to Gauguin, a famous, harsh and sharp artist, and persuaded him to come. When Gauguin arrived, Vincent greeted him like a messiah. Prepared a room. Hung sunflowers. Bought wine. Gave brushes. And said, "We will create a new religion, a religion of color." At first they worked together. Painted cafes, portraits of each other, roads, trees, night. They argued like philosophers who have no strength left for war. But with every day a crack grew between them. Gauguin was a logician, master of composition, philosopher. Vincent was an explosion. His paintings did not build, they burned. Gauguin wrote Theo. "Your brother does not sleep. He speaks with colors. At night I hear him crying in his room." The breakdown. One evening at dinner Vincent asked, "And if I die, will someone see my paintings?" Gauguin replied, "And if you don't die and no one sees them?" That was their last supper. That night Gauguin went for a walk. Vincent followed with a razor. But did not attack. He stood on the street corner, trembling, whispering something about an ear. Then he returned home. In the bathroom in front of the mirror, Vincent cut off part of his left ear. Carefully like a surgeon. Wrapped it in cloth. Went to a brothel. Gave it to the woman he silently loved. And said, This is all I can give you. Then he fainted. Consequences. He was sent to a hospital. Psychiatric clinic. White coat. Bare room. Bed without sheets. Walls without paintings. The town petitioned to expel him. His dream of the yellow house fell apart. Gauguin left and never returned. But even in the hospital, Vincent begged for brushes. And painted. Self-portrait with bandaged ear, looks at us with eerie calm. Ice. From another world. Saint Remy, in a cell of color. In May 1889, Vincent voluntarily admitted himself to the psychiatric clinic of the Saint Paul de Massol monastery near Saint Remy de Provence. The garden surrounded by cypress trees. Silent monks. Thick air. No one shouted at him. But no one embraced him either. His room was white. Bare. And only a window, the sole entrance to the world. Through it, he saw a tree bending like a wound, and a sky carrying shimmering anxiety. He began to paint. Nurses allowed him to walk in the garden. He placed his easel between stone walls and painted. Irises, like clusters of pain. Olive trees, like bent fingers. Wheat fields, like endless exhaustion. He felt as if he was not painting, he was transforming. Into bark, into cloud, into smoke. Letters to Theo. Every week he wrote to his brother. Long, feverish, light-filled fragments of consciousness. Theo, I saw the sky tear apart above the field. I painted without looking, like a madman, like a horse on fire. I want my paintings to sound like the organ music that hums at night. Theo responded gently, cautiously. Sent money. Wrote, I am always with you. You are more than an artist. You are painful light. Starry night. One night, when all slept and the soul ached, Vincent stood by the window and watched. The sky was full of stars. But they didn't just shine, they pulsed like a heart. The cypresses below, like tongues of flame. The moon, like a poisoned eye. The wind, like a voice. And he painted. Starry night became his psalm. Not to God but to madness. He said, when I look into the night, I see death. But it is a good death. Like a train that takes you home. Over Service, a quiet farewell. In 1890, on his doctor's recommendation, Vincent moved to the village of Auvers-sur-Oise. There lived the kind Dr. Guichet, lonely, somewhat eccentric, lover of art. He allowed Vincent to paint as much as he wished. And Van Gogh painted. Literally every day. Portrait of Dr. Guichet, eyes full of pity. Church at Auvers, swaying like a drunken creature. Tree roots, like buried screams. But in Vincent's eyes there was no hope. He saw Theo lose his job. Galleries refuse him. Even his psychiatrist avoided direct looks. The bullet in the wheat field. On July 27, 1890, he went into the fields with a canvas. There where the sky crashes down on the wheat. In his pocket he had a pistol. The bullet struck his chest. But did not kill. He reached the inn. Alone. Bloody. Smiling. When Theo arrived, Vincent said, Don't cry. I did it for myself. I stopped the pain. The fields are silent now. 2 days later he died. His last words were, Sorrow will last forever. Theo, brother by blood. Half a year later, Theo died in a psychiatric hospital in Utrecht. From illness, despair. From losing him. He asked to be buried next to his brother. So it happened. On the grave, 2 crosses. And fields around. And crows in the sky. And the sun that gives no rest, even to the dead. Resurrection. A year passed. Then 10. Then 20. His paintings began to appear in exhibitions. People approached sunflowers, and fell silent as if before something sacred. Starry Night appeared in the museum in New York. Self-portrait with bandaged ear, in the Louvre. Letters to Theo were published as a literary confession. The world finally heard what he screamed, through paint, through silence, through pain. Silence after paint. His legacy is not only in color, but in that he never lied. Not to himself. Not to his brother. Not to death. He allowed himself to be vulnerable, mad, useless. And left behind, not a triumph but a pulse. A pulse of light that carries the essence of the human. Epilogue. They say that at night if you stand in a wheat field when the wind tears the leaves and crows fly low, you can hear the crack of a brush. Somewhere nearby, the soul that never stopped painting. And perhaps, right now, Vincent is painting you. In colors that do not yet exist. On a canvas without edges.